Hi everyone, and welcome to The Sleepy Scientist. I'm really happy you're here. Tonight, we're going to go on a calm and quiet trip to learn something amazing. So get comfy, take a deep breath, and let's enjoy this peaceful science story together. Before we start, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from and what time is it for you right now? If you like relaxing science videos, don't forget to tap the like button. Now let's begin.
The morning begins with a thin light, a pale ribbon that slides over roofs and rivers and fields. In that gentle light, leaves wake. They do not make a sound the way we do. They open tiny mouths on their skin and the world begins to move through them. You can almost feel the first breath of the day rising from every hedge and branch. It is a slow breath, an easy breath, older than our oldest stories. It is the breath that makes the air we share. Imagine a leaf resting in your palm. It is simple and green, yet inside it there is a small city of light. The leaf feels the sun on its surface. The light warms it with care. In that warmth, tiny rooms called chloroplasts start their quiet work. Each chloroplast holds a green color called chlorophyll, which is like a net for sunlight. When the light enters the net, it does not stay light anymore. It becomes energy, and that energy begins to build the soft sugar that feeds the plant. It is a kind sugar, a slow sugar, made from thin air and water and sun. Leaves take in a gas called carbon dioxide. This gas is part of our breath when we breathe out. It is part of the breath of animals and the gentle sigh of soil and the smoke of fires and the long exhale of the sea. The leaf does not think of all this. It simply opens small gates, small valves called stomata, and lets the carbon dioxide in. At the same time, the plant pulls water up from its roots, drawing it from the earth one drop at a time. In the leaf, light and water and carbon dioxide meet. They meet like three friends at a table, and they share what they bring. The result is food for the plant and oxygen for the rest of us. The steps are soft. First, the light breaks water into pieces. The leaf uses the parts the way a careful maker uses thread and cloth. The freed pieces help carry energy from one place to another inside the chloroplast. Then the plant fixes carbon, which is a quiet way of saying it takes scattered carbon atoms from the air and sets them into a pattern that will last. Those patterns become sugar. The sugar moves through the plant the way warm tea moves through you on a cool day. It feeds the cells in the stem, the roots, the flowers. It is how a seed becomes a sprout, and a sprout becomes a tree, and a tree becomes a forest that hums at noon and whispers at night. When the light breaks water, something else is set free. It is oxygen, the gas we breathe. The leaf releases it into the air like a gift. We take that gift into our lungs and it becomes part of our blood, and it helps our cells turn our own food into the energy we need to walk and speak and sing. We are always in this trade with plants. We give carbon dioxide, they give oxygen. It is like a dance where each partner knows when to step forward and when to step back. Now imagine a field full of leaves. Grass blades shine with dew. Corn leaves stand tall. Small weeds lean into the morning. In every leaf, this same quiet work begins. If you could look down from high above, you would see the light spreading across the land and the tiny engines inside leaves turning on all at once. The engines make sugars out of air. They build the food that later becomes fruit and seed and grain. It is how bread begins. It is how apples begin. It is how a forest stores the memory of a summer in the wood of its trunks. A leaf is not alone in this work. The plant it lives on sends up water and minerals, little bits of the earth washed into the moving flow inside the xylem, which is the plant's water road. Down below, the roots feel the cool soil. They touch pebbles and sand. They wrap around pockets of air. They meet fungi so fine and white they look like threads of fog. These fungi help the plant sip more water and more minerals than it could alone, and the plant shares sugar in return. In this way, even the smallest seedling is part of a quiet community, a soft city in the ground. The life in the soil and the life in the leaf are not two lives. They are one connected breath pulled through different rooms. The sun moves higher. The light grows strong, then warmer, then soft again. The leaf keeps working even when we do not watch. It shields itself when the light is too bright. It curls its edges to rest when the air is too dry. It moves its gates to balance what comes in and what goes out. On its skin there may be tiny hairs to slow the wind and hold a little water. In the cells there may be pigments that act like shade. The leaf is not a flat thing. It is a careful shape that helps the plant live in its place. whether that place is a dry hillside or a wet valley or the rough edge of a city road. In the middle of the day, you can sometimes feel a coolness near trees. The shade is part of it, but there is more. As leaves open their gates, water slips out into the air as a fine mist you cannot see. This mist carries heat away. The air feels easier, softer. A single tree can soothe the warmth of a street. A small park can slow the harshness of summer in a town. A forest can change the way clouds form, calling rain from the sky by the way it uses the light and the water. In this way, a leaf is not just a food maker. It is a weather maker as well, working with sky and wind to shape the day. Think of old time, long before people, when the air was different. There was far less oxygen then. Tiny life in the oceans learned to catch the light and use it in a way that released oxygen into the water and then into the air. Slowly, over millions of years, the world changed. The air filled with the gas that lets fires burn and lungs work. The rocks changed in color where iron met the new oxygen. So did the life that came after. Plants on land joined this long work. They grew and spread and covered the ground with green light catchers. They turned ancient sunlight into wood and seed and leaf year after year. The air we breathe today is full of their steady labor. When we inhale, we take in the history of leaves. You can hold this history just by standing under a tree. Listen to the small sounds. The leaf rubs against the next leaf. The wind moves through open gates. A bee gentles past. A bird shifts in the shade. The tree is taking in our exhale and giving us our next inhale. The rhythm is quiet and kind. It happens when we run. It happens when we sleep. It happens when we are worried and when we are at peace. The leaf does not judge our mood. It holds to the same soft work. The sugar made by the leaf is stored and spent like the coins in a careful purse. Some of it becomes the strong fibers that hold the leaf up. Some of it moves to the stem to build new branches. Some goes down to the roots where it is saved for nights and winters and hard times. Some is given to the soil friends, the fungi and tiny bacteria that help the plant eat the earth. When a leaf falls in autumn, it returns this gathered sun to the ground. It feeds the dark with the memory of day. Not all leaves look the same, but their song is one. In the rainforest, leaves are broad and ribbed with channels that pour water away during heavy storms. In the desert, leaves are small or shaped like needles to keep precious water inside. On high mountains, leaves may wear a woolly coat. In the water, some leaves float and gleam, open to the sky as fish slip by their roots below. Yet in each leaf the light is still caught, the sugar is still made, the oxygen is still given. The shape bends to the place and the work stays true. Sometimes the plant rests. At night, the gates close or open in a different way. Some plants trade gases under the moon to save water in places where the day is too dry. They hold their breath by day and release it at night. Still, the work goes on. The leaf repairs what needs repair. The plant moves sugars where they must go. It is like a kitchen cleaned and ready for the next day's baking. Dawn will come, and the mixing of light and air and water will begin again. If you look very closely at a leaf, you might see its veins. They branch and branch until they are too small to follow. These are the pathways that carry water in and sugar out. They give the leaf its strength, the way beams inside a roof do. They spread from a central line like rivers from a high snowfield, reaching every cove and corner. Through these tiny streams, the story of the whole plant moves. What the root pulled from the soil, what the stem lifted with patience, what the leaf formed from light, all travel along these lines. A leaf is a map of flow. There is a kindness in this work that touches lives far from the field and forest. In our homes, we bring plants to our windows and desks. They make the air feel lighter. We do not watch their gates, but they are there, opening and closing, balancing the room. Out on farms, rows of leaves lift their faces to the sun, and the food for a city begins, not in a store, but in light turning to sugar on a clear day. In the wild, a tiny plant on a cliff makes breath for a hawk, and the hawk makes breath for the plant. In the sea, green and blue drifting leaves, so small we cannot see them, catch light and set the air for the world's waves and shores. Sometimes we forget this gift because it is everywhere. It is like forgetting the ground while walking. But you can remember by leaning close to a leaf and seeing the way it holds light. You can remember by taking a slow breath and knowing that part of what fills your chest was made a few hours ago by a hedge near the road. You can remember by stepping under a tree on a hot day and feeling the soft cool that rises from the leaves like a sigh. There is also a lesson in how leaves do their work. They do not hurry, they do not grasp, they turn towards what helps them. They share with their neighbors through hidden threads. They spend and save in right measure. They keep a rhythm with the day and the year. They make with what is simple: air, water, light. And from those simple things they build forests, meadows, orchard. DS and shade along every river. They build the space where birds learn to fly and children learn to walk and people find the time to rest. When the sun begins to set, the light softens. The leaves work gentles too. The day's sugars are stored. The gates begin to close. The heat is carried away with the last thin mist. The air grows sweet in that low light, and you can almost hear the slow beat of the world. The leaf does not know that we call this time evening. It knows only change, and it follows with ease. The work of making air has no sharp edges. It is a circle, like the sun that feeds it, like the seasons that guide it, like the breath in our lungs that enters and leaves, enters and leaves, enters and leaves. If you hold the leaf up to the sky, the light shines through in a warm green glow. Inside that glow, a river of tiny work goes on. Little unions between atoms, gentle chains built and unbuilt, the hush of energy passing from one hand to another. The world repeats itself at this small scale, and from the repeating comes a steady life. The leaf does not shout to make the air. It whispers it into being over and over until the whole day is filled. We live because of that whisper. We sleep because of that whisper. We dream because, while we dream, the whisper continues in the dark. Night comes, the stars step out above the trees. Somewhere a moth brushes a leaf and rests in its shade. Somewhere a person opens a window and feels the cool and breathes and relaxes. The plants are quiet, and yet their slow work holds the sky up for us in a way. It holds up our voices and our songs, our meals and our stories, our hands and our hearts. In the morning, they will begin again. In the morning, the old bright trade will start anew. Carbon for oxygen, water for mist, light for sugar, silence for a world alive. Now, as we settle into this tender thought, we can feel the simple truth move through us. Plants make life possible because they turn sunlight into something we can hold, eat, breathe, and become. They do this with patience. They do this with grace. They do this whether we are looking or not. If you press your ear to the window at dawn, you might imagine you hear it, that soft green working, that first gentle breath of the day being woven in the leaves for all of us to share. And in that thought, the heart grows calm, the air feels kind, and the night is ready to carry you forward into easy, dreaming rest. The day stretches onward, and the green world continues its endless weaving. What began in the morning as soft breath and quiet gift becomes, by midday, a grand symphony spread across valleys and fields. The sun is higher now, the light fuller, the air warmer. In this moment, leaves are not only making sugar for themselves, they are creating the quiet foundation of every meal, every breath, every story of life. The energy caught in their green hands will ripple outward into animals, into insects, into us. What is inside the leaf is soon inside the bird, the deer, the child who eats bread at a table. The thread is thin but unbroken. The origin is always light, and the hand that first catches it is always the leaf. Think of a meadow in summer. Each blade of grass is like a small factory, humming silently with light. The meadow hums with bees, but beneath their flight the louder hum is unseen, sunlight turning into sugar. When a rabbit lowers its nose to chew, it is not only eating grass but eating the work of the sun. The sugar that ran in the leaf now runs in the rabbit. When a hawk glides and takes the rabbit, the same sugar runs in the hawk. The flow of life is a chain of borrowed energy, a series of handoffs that never stops. At the start of it all, before tooth or claw or feather, there was a leaf holding light. In the forest, the chain is deeper, layered like the shade. The tall trees lift their crowns to catch the sun. Below them, smaller trees and bushes lean into gaps, reaching for the beams that slip through. On the floor, ferns unfurl and moss drinks the softened glow. Every layer holds leaves making food. Every layer is part of the same shared breath. The tall trees build wood with their sugars, thickening year after year, holding decades of sunlight in their trunks. The bushes turn sugars into berries, sweet jewels that carry seeds in bright skin. The ferns and moss make small meals for beetles and snails. And when those beetles and snails move, when they are eaten or when they fall, their energy returns, part of a cycle that never ends. This is why scientists sometimes call plants producers. They produce not in the way a factory produces with smoke and noise, but in the way an orchard produces fruit from spring's gentle promise. They are the first step, the open door, the beginning of the story. Without their sugars, there would be no food web, no chain of mouths, no spreading of wings. The deer's strength, the lion's leap, the child's song, all of it is light first caught by the aves. Even the fish in the deepest rivers, even the owl in the night, carry the memory of photosynthesis in their blood. The sugars move through plants like secrets carried in the dark. They travel in tubes called phloem, slipping from leaf to root, from stem to flower, from branch to fruit. The plant spends them carefully. Some sugars build cellulose, the strong fiber that stiffens stems and trunks. Some build starch, saved like coins in roots and seeds. Some become nectar, a sweet liquid that plants share with bees and butterflies. Nectar is a trade, sugar for pollination. The bee drinks and in return carries pollen from one flower to another. The plant gives sweetness and receives the promise of seeds. In this way, the leaf's quiet work spills outward into the world of color and flight, buzzing wings and humming tongues. A single flower lit by sun is the meeting place of plant, insect, and sky. The sugars do not stop at nectar, they become fruit. When you bite into an apple, the sweetness on your tongue is the sun's memory. When you peel an orange, the fragrance in the air is the gift of photosynthesis. Bananas, cherries, melons, grains of rice, kernels of corn, all are different faces of the same green magic. The plant makes sugar to live, but in sharing it, it ensures that birds and humans carry its seeds far and wide. The apple feeds you, and in return you might leave its seeds in new soil. In this way, plants have written themselves into our meals, our migrations, our civilizations. Every loaf of bread, every bowl of rice, every sip of wine is a chapter in the story that began with a leaf. Now think of the animals that eat no plants directly. A fox eats a rabbit, a snake eats a mouse, an eagle eats a fish. They do not graze or nibble on leaves, yet their lives are just as bound to photosynthesis. The rabbit ate grass, the mouse ate grain, the fish fed on small creatures that in turn fed on tiny drifting plants in the sea. Each predator, no matter how sharp its teeth, lives on sunlight caught by green. Even the deepest hunter in the ocean depends on algae floating near the surface, algae so small you cannot see them. These tiny leaves of the sea, called phytoplankton, catch light just like trees do. They feed the zooplankton, who feed the small fish, who feed the larger fish, who feed whales and seals and seabirds. The whole ocean is stirred by the same green thread. Phytoplankton are more than food. They are also lungs for the planet. Scientists believe they make at least half of the world's oxygen, sometimes more. When you breathe, every other breath may come from the ocean's drifting leaves. Imagine that, each inhale a gift from waves, from sunlit water filled with lives too small to see. Without them, the air would thin. With them, the sky is steady. The forest and the sea together make the world habitable, one breath at a time. On land, plants shape not just food but also shelter. The sugars made in leaves become wood that builds nests, dens, and burrows. They become fibers that weave into human homes, cloth, and paper. The very words you read here rest on the history of plants turned to pulp and page. Wood carries not only the strength of cellulose but the memory of light and water. Each ring in a tree trunk is a diary of photosynthesis, years of captured sun, stacked one upon another, telling of droughts and floods, of rich summers and lean winters. When you press your hand to a wooden table, you touch the time when that tree once grew in the light. Even stone carries the history of plants. Long ago, in ancient swamps, plants grew tall and lush. They fell and were buried, pressed under layers of earth, and over millions of years, their stored sunlight turned into coal. Other plants drifting in seas became oil and gas. Today, when humans burn these fuels, they release that ancient sunlight back into the air. Our machines, our cities, our lights at night are powered by the energy of leaves long gone. It is a reminder, both wondrous and sobering, of how deeply our lives lean on the quiet work of plants. Plants also shape the air in subtler ways. By taking in carbon dioxide, they lower its level in the sky. They keep balance between breath in and breath out. Too much carbon dioxide would trap too much heat, making the planet too warm. Leaves, forests, and oceans all help to steady that balance. When we cut forests or harm the sea, we disturb this quiet work. The air shifts, the climate tilts, and the world feels it. The lesson is simple. The health of plants is the health of breath itself. Caring for them is caring for ourselves. But plants do not simply work for us. They are alive for their own sake. They grow, flower, and seed because that is their way. The fact that their way also supports us is part of the deep interweaving of life. When we walk in a meadow or rest in a forest, we are not guests but relatives. The air in our lungs was the work of leaves. The food in our bodies was tea. He gift of green. We are tied to them as closely as a child to a parent. Sometimes it feels as though the earth itself is one great organism, its breath moving through leaf and lung alike. In the heat of midday, a forest is more than shade. It is a living machine of balance. The leaves draw water from the soil and release it into the air, making clouds. The forest cools the ground beneath it, invites rain, and shapes rivers. The Amazon, vast and green, is called the lungs of the planet not only because it makes oxygen, but because it drives winds, rains, and currents. Without such forest, weather itself would unravel. The sun might burn too hot, the soil might dry, the rivers might shrink. With them, the rhythm of water, air, and life continues in balance. To step under a tree is to step into the machinery of the world's heartbeat. There is also a memory held in plants. The seeds that fall to soil carry the patterns of survival, the maps of how to catch light, how to grow roots, how to flower. Each seed holds instructions written in the gentle code of DNA, a script built from countless seasons before. When the seed sprouts, it follows this quiet memory, unfolding leaves as ancestors did. This too is life made possible, the sharing of knowledge across time. A forest is not only a body of leaves, but a library of light, each generation of trees passing its memory forward in seeds, ensuring the world continues to breathe. Now let your thoughts drift to the evening meal. A bowl of rice, a slice of bread, a handful of beans. Each grain and crumb is a sunlit day stored and saved. It is the sweetness of leaves translated into strength for human hands. When families gather, when friends share food, they are sharing light caught long ago. Every feast, every humble supper is a communion with plants. Without them, the table would be empty, and so would our lives. The flow of sugar and air is not only physical, it also moves through our stories and spirits. We write poems about trees, sing songs about fields, dream of gardens where peace can be found. We decorate with flowers, we marry under arches of leaves, we mourn with wreaths. Plants hold symbols of growth, renewal, memory, and hope. They shape not just our bodies, but our imaginations. In every culture, in every time, green has been a color of life. This too is how plants make life possible, by feeding our inner world with meaning as surely as they feed our outer world with food. If you pause in the afternoon light and look at a single tree, you can see this truth layered on its bark and branches. A bird perches, fed by berries. A squirrel leaps, fed by seeds. A child rests in the shade, cooled by the leaves. Beneath the soil, fungi share sugars. Above, clouds gather from water released by roots. All of these lives, small and large, are woven together by photosynthesis. The tree does not shout about its work. It does not boast of its gift. It simply stands, takes the light, and shares what it makes. And from that sharing, the web of life extends in every direction, until you and I, breathing this very moment, are part of its circle. As the afternoon leans toward dusk, the green work slows. But the memory of the day is stored in every stem, every vein, every seed. The cycle is ready to continue tomorrow. The leaf does not know that its sugars will one day become a berry eaten by a bird, or wood that shelters a family, or air that fills the lungs of a child yet unborn. It simply makes. Yet in this simplicity lies the grandest truth of all. Plants make life possible not through effort or will, but through being what they are, open to light, rooted in earth, generous in every breath. Evening comes with a hush, and the green world does not close its doors but softens its rhythm. The sun dips low, pouring gold over fields and forests, and the leaves slow their work. Yet even now, even in the dimming glow, the plants are quietly shaping the path of tomorrow. They are storing the sugars they made, packing them into roots and stems, folding them into seeds, tucking them into safe places for what lies ahead. It is as if the day's gift is carefully wrapped and placed on a shelf, waiting to be opened in another hour, another season, another life. The quiet of twilight invites us to look deeper, beyond the daily dance of photosynthesis, into the broader story of how plants make life possible in the long river of time. Every breath of air and bite of food today carries echoes of the earliest plants. Long ago, the earth was bare of trees and flowers. The land was harsh, the air thin of oxygen. Tiny green pioneers, mosses, and small algae-like plants crept onto stone and soil. They clung to wet places, slowly covering rock, slowly catching light. With patience measured not in days but in millions of years, they built the soil that would one day hold forests. Their steady work released oxygen, cooling and shaping the atmosphere. They did not know it, yet they were preparing the stage for the arrival of animals, for the long unfolding of birds, insects, mammals, and humans. Without those first green threads, the earth would have remained a silent stone beneath the sun. In that long history, plants became the great architects of ecosystems. They are not only food makers, they are builders of entire worlds. A single tree, by standing tall, creates shade that changes the soil beneath, cools the air, and invites countless creatures to live in its branches. A forest creates rivers by pulling water into clouds. A grassland binds the soil, preventing it from blowing away, turning dry dust into fertile earth. Wetlands brim with reeds and lilies, slowing water and giving homes to fish and frogs. Everywhere plants grow, they shape the stage upon which other lives can act. Without them, the stage would crumble and the play of life would end. Even in our own bodies, the story of plants lingers. The molecules that carry energy in our cells, tiny packets called ATP, are powered by sugars. The vitamins we need for health, the fibers that guide digestion, the oils that fuel our brains, all find their origin in plants. Even our bones hold calcium once drawn by roots from the earth. Our very blood, rich with iron, binds oxygen first made plentiful by leaves. We are stitched together from the work of plants, our tissues carrying the quiet memory of fields and forests. To be human is to be partly green, not in color but in essence. The relationship is not one of taking only. We exhale carbon dioxide, which plants need. We carry their seeds, sometimes knowingly, sometimes by accident, to new soil. We protect some, we cultivate many. Fields of wheat, orchards of apples, gardens of herbs, all are shaped by human hands, and in return they shape human life. Civilization itself bloomed from this exchange. When people learned to sow grains and care for plants, villages grew, then cities. Laws were written, art was made, journeys began, all nourished by harvests. The story of humanity is also the story of plants agreeing, in their own quiet way, to walk with us through time. There is also comfort in how plants remind us of cycles. A bare branch in winter buds in spring. A seed sleeps in soil for years before rising green. Flowers fade but drop seeds that bloom again. Death itself is softened by this rhythm, for the fallen leaf feeds the soil that will nurture new growth. Plants teach us that endings are beginnings, that rest is not emptiness but preparation, that decay is another form of nourishment. In their quiet cycles, we can see our own lives reflected, with moments of growth, of rest, of renewal. They are not teachers in words, but their presence whispers these truths. At night, many plants close their flowers, folding petals inward as if to dream. Their roots remain awake, pulling water, trading with fungi, readying themselves for dawn. Some plants in deserts open their stomata only in the dark, saving precious water while still gathering the gases they need. Even the night is filled with green work, unseen but steady. And when we sleep, drawing oxygen into our lungs, it is the same oxygen given by leaves hours earlier. Sleep and plant, dream and leaf, all tied together in one soft loop. Think of the great forests again. Their scale is beyond our grasp, yet they function as a single organism. Trees speak to one another through underground fungi, sending signals of warning, sharing food with seedlings, even supporting old stumps that can no longer make their own sugars. The forest breathes as one, inhales carbon, exhales oxygen, hums with insects, sings with birds. To stand in such a place is to stand in the lungs of the earth, to feel not only the cool air but the immense, slow pulse of life continuing around you. Without forests, without plants, that pulse would stop. And what of beauty? Plants offer us more than survival, they offer joy. The colors of flowers, the scent of herbs, the rustle of leaves in the wind, all these are gifts beyond necessity. We could breathe and eat without roses, but roses bloom anyway, filling the world with color and fragrance. We could live on grains alone, yet plants give us peaches, honeyed and soft, or cherries, bright as summer's laughter. Their generosity is not only in keeping us alive, but in making life sweet, gentle, and worth cherishing. In every blossom, in every grove, they remind us that existence can be beautiful as well as possible. Plants also hold time in ways we cannot. A tree may live for centuries, outlasting generations of people. Its trunk grows thick as nations rise and fall, its rings marking seasons long forgotten by human memory. To sit beneath an old oak is to touch a timeline far deeper than our own. Plants teach patience, showing that strength is built slowly, layer by layer, year by year. In their stillness, they reveal endurance, resilience, and the quiet power of simply continuing. As night deepens, the truth returns to simplify. We breathe because leaves release oxygen. We eat because leaves make sugar. We live because plants anchor soil, summon rain, and balance air. Their gifts are constant, silent, and steady. They do not ask for recognition. They do not require applause. They give because that is their way of being. To realize this is to feel a soft gratitude, a humility before the green world that supports us more gently than any hand. Now as stars shimmer above fields and forests, as cities quiet and rivers reflect the moon, we can rest in this understanding. Plants are the foundation of life, the first makers, the endless givers. They hold the light of the sun and release it into the world as breath, as food, as shelter, as beauty. They weave the fabric of ecosystems, steady the rhythm of air, and color our days with joy. Without them, the world would be empty stone. With them, the world is a garden where every life, including ours, can grow. So let us close this story in calm reflection. Picture a single leaf trembling in the night breeze. Inside it is the memory of the day, the whisper of sugars, the gift of oxygen. It is small, yet it holds the world. From such leaves come forests, meadows, grains, fruits, oceans of plankton, and every breath we take. The truth is simple, tender, and vast. Plants make life possible, quietly, steadily, beautifully. And knowing this, the heart feels lighter, the breath feels fuller, and the night feels kind. In the stillness of night, while most of the world sleeps, the plants are quietly awake in their own way. Their leaves may fold, their flowers may close, but within them something deeper is turning. It is not sound, not movement, but a rhythm. A soft clock, older than any made by human hands, ticks gently inside every leaf, every root, every seed. This is the hidden time of plants, a secret clock that does not hang on walls or shine from towers, but flows within the cells themselves. Plants carry time the way rivers carry water, constant, silent, and unbroken. Long before humans counted hours or named the days, plants already knew the rhythm of light and darkness. Even in perfect darkness, hidden away in caves or sealed in laboratories, leaves will still rise and fall as if following the sun. Flowers will still open and close on schedule, guided by an inner compass that does not lose its way. This secret timekeeper is called the circadian rhythm, from words meaning around the day. It is a cycle of roughly 24 hours, written into the very chemistry of life. Plants, like animals like us, hold this rhythm in every cell, as if the universe itself planted a clock in their hearts. Imagine a sunflower turning through the day, its golden face following the sun across the sky. To our eyes, it looks as though the flower is simply reacting to the light, stretching toward brightness as a moth might flutter to a flame. But the truth is deeper. Even when the sky is hidden, the sunflower continues to move, guided by its inner clock. It expects the sun, predicts its path, and leans toward where the light will be, not only where it is. This anticipation is part of the secret wisdom of plants. They do not simply wait for the world, they prepare for it. Scientists discovered this rhythm centuries ago when they noticed that plants kept patterns even in darkness. A French astronomer long ago placed a plant in a dark cupboard and watched as its leaves continued to rise and fall at the same hours. No sunlight entered, no external cue remained, yet the plant kept its schedule. Today, with finer tools, we know why. Inside each cell are genes that turn on and off in cycles, proteins that rise and fall like tides, sending signals to the whole organism. These cycles tell the plant when to open its stomata, when to move sugars, when to flower. The rhythm of the plant is written in the very fabric of its being. In this way, plants are poets of time. They measure not with ticking seconds, but with waves of light and dark, with the deep beat of the earth turning. Their clocks are tuned to the sun and the moon, to dawn's first glow and dusk's long shadow. When days grow longer in spring, their clocks whisper that it is time to bloom. When nights grow cooler in autumn, their clocks prepare leaves to fall. Even seeds, buried in soil, use these rhythms to decide when to wake. Some will only sprout if they feel the length of days growing, telling them that spring has truly arrived. Without this secret clock, plants would scatter their efforts blindly, blooming in winter, sleeping in summer. With it, they move with grace, in harmony with the turning of the world. The rhythm of plants is not only for themselves, it shapes the lives of countless others. Bees visit flowers at times when nectar is richest, and those times are set by the plant's inner clock. Moths find blooms open in the night, prepared as if waiting just for them. Birds feed on fruits ripened at the season when their chicks are hungry. The clock of plants becomes the clock of ecosystems, setting the schedule for the dance of life. Without this silent timing, the threads of connection might fray, and the harmony of the natural world would stumble. If you walk through a meadow at dawn, you can see the clock in motion. Some flowers open with the first blush of light, petals trembling with dew. Others wait until the sun climbs higher, keeping their nectar safe until the day is strong. By evening, the meadow changes again. Some blooms close, some scents grow stronger, luring night pollinators. The meadow is like an orchestra, each plant an instrument tuned to its own time, yet all together forming a symphony of hours. The secret clocks guide the performance, unseen conductors keeping the rhythm steady. Within the cells, the mechanism is both simple and profound. Certain genes awaken with the light, producing proteins that gather and signal. As day passes, these proteins accumulate, and at a certain point, they suppress the very genes that made them. As night falls, the proteins break down, lifting their suppression, and the cycle begins again. This loop creates a rhythm of activity and rest, rise and fall, anticipation and response. It is like a seesaw that never stops, balanced between light and dark. From such small loops of molecules, whole forests know when to flower, whole fields know when to yield, whole worlds of green know when to breathe. Yet plants also adjust their clocks, listening to the cues of their environment. If days grow shorter, they lengthen their rhythm. If nights grow longer, they shift their patterns. Like travelers changing time zones, plants feel jet lag when moved from one light cycle to another. A flower shifted to artificial light may bloom at odd hours, confused by the false dawn. But given time, it will reset, tuning once more to the true rhythm of the sun. The clock is flexible, adaptive, always seeking harmony with the world outside. This hidden timekeeping also governs great journeys in plant life. Migration is not only for animals. Plants migrate too, though slowly, carried by seeds on winds or birds or water. The moment of release, the ripening of fruit, the hardening of seed coats, all are timed by internal clocks. A dandelion puff waits for a dry morning when air currents will lift its seeds farthest. A maple tree drops its winged seeds in autumn, just as the soil prepares to cradle them through winter. In each act, the plant's clock ensures that the next generation steps into the world at the right time, with the best chance of survival. And it is not only days and nights that plants keep track of. They also measure seasons, using a longer clock called photoperiodism. When daylight hours pass a certain threshold, the plant knows to flower. Some are long-day plants, blooming when days stretch past spring. Others are short-day plants, flowering when nights grow long in late summer. Still others bloom only when the balance is just right. These seasonal clocks are precise, tuned by evolution to match pollinators, weather, and survival. A mistake in timing would mean flowers without bees, seeds without soil, or growth without rain. But the secret clocks rarely falter. Year after year, they keep the world in rhythm. For humans, these rhythms are both gift and guide. Farmers have long watched the length of days to decide when to plant and harvest. Ancient calendars were built around the flowering of crops, the ripening of fruit, the turning of leaves. Even today, in laboratories filled with glowing lights and delicate instruments, scientists marvel at how plants measure time without eyes, without brains, without conscious thought. Their wisdom lies not in thinking, but in being, in responding to the deep pulses of light and darkness that shape all life on Earth. As the evening settles again, you might notice flowers closing one by one. The secret clocks are still ticking, marking the path toward night. Tomorrow they will open again, right on schedule, whether we are watching or not. To know this is to feel a kind of peace, a reassurance that the world is ordered in ways beyond our control. Time is not only in our clocks and calendars, but in every leaf, every petal, every blade of grass. The plants remind us that time is not a line but a rhythm, not a race but a song, sung softly and steadily in green. The day rises slowly again, and in the hush between dawn and light, the plants are already counting. They do not measure with hands or dials, but with the chemistry of their cells, with the soft rhythm of molecules moving in cycles. Each pulse of light, each stretch of darkness is remembered. This memory allows them not only to live within the day, but to prepare for the days to come. It is a kind of foresight, though without thought, a quiet knowing etched into the green of their being. Consider a garden filled with many kinds of plants. Some flowers open with the first faint glow, greeting bees that whack. Early, others wait until mid-morning, keeping their nectar safe until the sun is strong enough to warm the air and stir more visitors. Still others hold their blossoms for night, releasing fragrance only after dusk to invite moths to sip and carry pollen. Each plant, guided by its secret clock, chooses its time. Together, the garden is alive not in a single moment, but in waves of activity that roll gently from dawn to dusk to night. The clock of each plant is a single note, and together they form a melody that fills the air. This inner clock is more than a guide for flowers. It shapes how leaves breathe, how stems stretch, how roots grow. During the day, when light is plentiful, leaves open their tiny gates to gather carbon dioxide, letting water slip out as vapor. At night, many close these gates to rest and save, yet not all plants follow the same pattern. In deserts where days are too hot, some open their gates only at night, storing gases until the morning, when they use the stored air to build sugars. This adaptation, called cam photosynthesis, is a rhythm tuned to harsh conditions, a way of surviving by counting not only the hours but the heat of the day. The clocks of plants are not uniform, but as varied as the landscapes they inhabit. The secret clocks also tell plants when to flower, a choice as crucial as life itself. To bloom too soon risks frost. To bloom too late risks missing pollinators. Some plants wait until days grow long in spring, measuring the increasing light before sending buds. Others bloom as nights grow longer, saving their energy for the cooler end of summer. This sense of day length, called photoperiodism, is a deeper clock layered upon the daily rhythm. It allows plants to align their lives with seasons, to move in step with the Earth's tilt and the sky's shifting light. Without this precision, ecosystems would falter. Bees might fly with no flowers to feed on. Birds might nest with no fruits to nourish their chicks. The clock keeps harmony, binding species together in a shared calendar of survival. Even seeds, small and silent, hold these clocks. Some rest until they sense days growing longer, telling them spring has come. Others wait for shorter days, waking only when autumn rains begin. Still others require a period of cold, counting the weeks beneath snow before rising in warmth. In this way, seeds measure not just light, but the passing of time itself. They lie patient, waiting for the moment that history has prepared them for. The clock ensures that life continues not in chaos but in rhythm, a cycle passed on through generations. Science has revealed the delicate machinery of these rhythms. Within plant cells, genes and proteins rise and fall like tides. One gene switches on in the morning, sparking a wave of activity. As the day wears on, the proteins it makes begin to suppress the very gene that created them. As night falls, the proteins fade, releasing the gene again, ready for dawn. This loop, a simple dance of making and unmaking, creates the beat of the clock. Yet this small cycle, multiplied through billions of cells, directs the growth of whole forests, the flowering of fields, the ripening of orchards. From tiny loops of molecules, vast landscapes find their order. But plants do not keep time alone. They listen to the world around them and adjust their rhythms. A cloudy day may shift the cycle, a long summer drought may delay flowering, a sudden cold snap may signal the need to hurry. Their clocks are flexible, tuned not only to light but to temperature, water, and the subtle cues of the environment. This flexibility allows them to thrive in deserts and jungles, in high mountains and deep valleys. It is why sunflowers turn faithfully to the sun, why night-blooming jasmine waits until evening, why crops planted in spring bear fruit in time for harvest. Their clocks are not rigid, they are alive, breathing with the world they measure. For humans, the secret clocks of plants are more than a curiosity. They are part of our own rhythms, woven into the food we eat, the air we breathe, the landscapes we live in. Farmers for centuries have watched the timing of flowers and seeds, knowing when to sow, when to reap, when to rest. Festivals and calendars grew from these observations, cultures shaped by the rhythms of wheat and rice, by the blossoming of cherry trees, by the ripening of grapes. Even now in cities where lights blur the natural day, we feel the echoes of plant time. Seasonal foods arrive in markets, reminding us of the cycles we cannot escape. Strawberries in spring, pumpkins in autumn, grains gathered in summer. All are gifts of the plant clock keeping time with the sun. The rhythm of plants also whispers lessons for our own lives. In their cycles, we see patience, balance, and anticipation. They do not rush to bloom but wait for the right hour. They do not waste energy when resources are scarce but store and prepare. They rest at night, work by day. ND follow the steady turn of the earth. In this, they show us another way of being, one that honors rhythm over haste, flow over force. To live like plants is to live in step with time, not racing against it, but moving with its quiet music. Even ecosystems beyond the land depend on these rhythms. In oceans, tiny drifting plants called phytoplankton rise toward the surface by day, catching light, and sink by night, resting in the deep. Their movement, driven by inner clocks, shapes the very chemistry of the sea, feeding vast webs of fish and whales. Without their cycles, the ocean would lose its balance. The tides of life themselves would falter. From forest to sea, meadow to desert, the hidden clocks keep the planet breathing. At sunset, when flowers close and leaves fold, the rhythm does not end. It continues in silence, in the slow ticking of genes and proteins, in the unseen anticipation of dawn. The secret clocks of plants remind us that time is not only measured by human invention, but is written into the heart of life itself. To watch a flower open, to see a tree bud in spring, to breathe air made rich by leaves is to witness the steady beat of this ancient timekeeper. The world is not chaos, but rhythm. And in the rhythm of plants, we find the steady pulse of existence. Night has fallen, yet the secret clocks of plants do not sleep. Their rhythm continues, quiet and patient, unseen beneath the stars. In the darkness, flowers that belong to moths and bats open their soft faces, releasing fragrance into the night air. Their timing is not chance, but the careful guidance of their inner clocks, which know when pollinators will stir and when the coolness of evening will protect delicate petals. Even in silence, even in stillness, the cycle turns, preparing plants for the dawn that will come. This hidden time is not only about flowers and leaves, it is about survival in a world that is always changing. Plants live in landscapes of uncertainty. Days may be long or short, hot or cool, wet or dry. To thrive, they must anticipate rather than react. Their clocks allow them to prepare for light before it arrives, to close their gates before the heat of noon, to bloom before the bees awaken. This anticipation is their wisdom, their way of being ready for what has not yet happened. It is a lesson of trust in cycles, a reminder that even in the unknown, rhythm can be relied upon. Imagine a forest at the turn of spring. The days lengthen, though the air may still hold cold. Deep inside the trees, the clocks are measuring the growing hours of light. Buds swell, leaves prepare to unfurl. The forest seems to wait, holding its breath until the rhythm gives the signal. Then, almost all at once, green bursts forth. The timing is precise, ensuring that leaves open when sunlight is strong enough to fuel their growth, when frost is less likely to bite. If they opened too soon, they would be lost. If too late, they would miss the season. The clock inside each tree guides this delicate balance, and the forest as a whole rises in harmony. In fields, the same timing governs crops. Wheat, rice, corn, and beans all flower according to their clocks, tuned over ages to the seasons of their homelands. When farmers sow seeds, they join their hopes to these rhythms, trusting that the plants will keep their time. For centuries, humanity has shaped agriculture by selecting varieties that flower at certain hours, that ripen in certain seasons. Our bread and rice, our fruits and vegetables, all come to us because of the hidden clocks within plants. Without them, harvests would be uncertain, and life itself far less steady. The beauty of these rhythms lies also in their diversity. Some plants open in daylight, others only in darkness. Some bloom once a year, others many times. Some wait decades before flowering, as in the case of century plants whose clocks measure lifetimes rather than days. Yet no matter how different their schedules, all are bound by cycles that link them to the sun and the turning earth. They are many songs, yet all are written in the same key, the music of time itself. Science, with its instruments and experiments, has peered deeply into this hidden world. Researchers place plants under constant light or darkness, and still the rhythms continue. They adjust temperature, humidity, and nutrients, and still the cycles hold. The core of the clock is resilient, a loop of genes and proteins that keeps time even when the environment shifts. This discovery shows us that timekeeping is not just a response to the outside world, but an inner property of life. Plants do not merely follow the sun, they carry the sun's memory within them. But while the clock is inner, it is not alone. It listens always to the signals of light and temperature, adjusting to stay in tune. Just as a musician keeps pace with others in an orchestra, so do plants adjust their rhythm to the world around them. The sunrise resets their clocks each day, aligning them with the true time of the earth. This balance between inner rhythm and outer cue keeps life steady. Without it, flowers might bloom at the wrong hour, seeds might sprout in the wrong season, and ecosystems would falter. With it, harmony continues across generations. The clocks of plants reach even into human lives in ways we rarely notice. Coffee beans ripen on schedule, their fruits red at the right season. Rice fields fill with grain timed by light and day length. Grapes sweeten in the sun, their sugars guided by rhythms that vintners depend upon. Our diets, our economies, even our celebrations are bound to these cycles. Cherry blossom festivals, harvest moons, autumn feasts, all arise because plants keep their secret time. Without them, our calendars would lose their meaning, our traditions their anchor, our lives their dependable flow. And perhaps most tender of all, the secret clocks of plants remind us that time is not something to be conquered, but something to be joined. We often measure our days in rushing hours, in deadlines and alarms. Plants measure theirs in quiet pulses, in the length of shadows, in the softness of night. They do not hurry, they do not resist, they move with time, not against it. In this, they offer us a model of peace, to live by rhythm rather than by rush, to trust cycles rather than fear them, to prepare gently for what comes rather than force what is not ready. As dawn begins once more, the cycle proves itself again. Flowers open, leaves spread, roots sip the morning's water. The secret clocks have carried the plants through the night, and now they welcome the light as they always have. Their rhythm continues steady and sure, a quiet heartbeat of the green world. To watch this is to see more than plants. It is to glimpse the deeper order of life, the silent harmony that sustains us all. So let us close this story with the image of a sunflower turning its face, not only to the light but to the promise of light, guided by a clock older than memory. Within that turn is the essence of plant time: patience, anticipation, and trust in the rhythm of the earth. The secret clocks of plants are not secrets at all, but gifts, steady and generous, reminding us that life is always in time, always in rhythm, always unfolding in cycles that carry us gently forward. Beneath the quiet surface of the earth lies a world we rarely see, yet one that holds the planet together. Roots stretch downward in silence, weaving through soil, stone, and shadow. They are hidden hands, unseen builders, binding the ground, drinking the water, and sharing life with all that lives above. Without them, the green of leaves and the bloom of flowers could not endure. Roots are the secret anchors of the world, threads that weave the earth into one living fabric. Imagine a young seed falling into the soil. Rain softens its coat, and from within, a small rootlet pushes downward. It does not rise toward the light like its shoot, but sinks into darkness, into cool soil and hidden spaces. This is the first gesture of trust, the seed giving itself to the ground. The tiny root tip moves like a slow explorer, pressing between grains of sand, slipping past fragments of rock, guided not by sight but by sensation. It feels gravity, it feels water, it feels the chemical whispers of nutrients. Step by step, it grows, leaving a trail of cells that will hold the plant steady for a lifetime. Roots do more than anchor, they are seekers. Through their fine hairs, roots sip the earth's water, molecule by molecule, drop by drop. They draw up minerals dissolved in that water: calcium, potassium, phosphorus, iron. These are the letters of life's alphabet, elements without which no leaf could unfurl, no flower could bloom, no seed could ripen. Every grain of rice, every kernel of corn, every apple on a branch is made possible by the quiet searching of roots in the soil below. They are miners of invisible treasures, feeding the plant with gifts pulled from the deep. The architecture of roots is vast and varied. Some grow deep taproots like carrots or oaks, spearing down into the ground to find water far below. Others spread wide and shallow, like grasses, forming dense nets that hold soil against wind and rain. Some, like mangroves, twist their roots upward into the air, breathing in oxygen where the ground is waterlogged. Orchids cling to tree bark with roots that sip mist from the air. Each form is an adaptation, a response to place, a way of weaving the earth to suit survival. Wherever plants grow, their roots tell the story of how they learned to belong. If we could see beneath a forest floor, we would find a web more intricate than any woven by spider or silk. The roots of trees spread out and touch one another. Between them, threads of fungi stretch and branch, connecting tree to tree in a vast underground network. Through this living web, sugars flow from one tree to another, nutrients are shared. Warning. Ray scent, a shaded sapling may receive food from a parent tree. An injured tree may pass its reserves to neighbors before dying. The forest becomes less a collection of individuals and more a single organism, united by roots and fungi in cooperation. This hidden community is sometimes called the Wood Wide Web, a name that hints at its depth and mystery. Roots are not only anchors but messengers, not only feeders but sharers, weaving earth and life into one. The soil itself is shaped by roots. As they grow, they break apart stone, turning rock into soil. They release chemicals that dissolve minerals, making them available for life. They bind particles together, holding earth in place against erosion. In prairies, the dense mats of grass roots reach meters deep, creating rich black soil that can feed millions. In forests, roots hold hillsides steady, preventing landslides, slowing floods. In deserts, even sparse shrubs weave the sand enough to resist the wind. Without roots, landscapes would wash away, and fertile ground would vanish into rivers and seas. Roots are the unseen builders of stability, holding continents in quiet embrace. Life underground is not empty. It teems with creatures, worms, beetles, bacteria, fungi, nematodes, each playing its part. Roots interact with them all. Some bacteria nestle near roots and help fix nitrogen, turning air into food the plant can use. In return, the plant shares sugars. Fungi weave into roots, forming mycorrhizae that extend the plant's reach for water and minerals. This partnership is ancient, stretching back hundreds of millions of years when the first plants crept onto land. Without fungi, roots alone might not have survived. Together, they formed the living skin of the earth, greening the continents, cooling the air, making life possible. The weave of root and fungus is not just survival but creation, the beginning of the green world we know. Roots also hold memory. A tree may lose its leaves each year, its branches shaped by storm and season, but its roots endure, storing energy for the next spring. In grasses, roots hold reserves that allow them to regrow after fire or grazing. In perennials, roots carry the record of many seasons, wading through frost and drought, ready to rise when the time is right. Even when the surface is cut or burned, as long as roots remain, life can return. They are the quiet keepers of resilience, storing not just food but the potential of renewal. In the language of symbols, roots stand for connection and origin. We speak of family roots, cultural roots, the roots of knowledge. This is no accident. The hidden networks beneath plants mirror the hidden networks beneath our lives. Just as roots feed and support leaves, so do our unseen connections feed and support us. We may not notice them, but without them, we could not stand. Roots remind us that strength comes not only from what is visible, but from what is buried deep, from what holds us quietly in place. Picture a field at dusk, the air cooling, the soil still warm. Beneath your feet, roots are drinking, stretching, branching, weaving. They are working in silence, unseen but unceasing. Their gift is not only to the plant above, but to the soil itself, to the creatures within, to the air above. Every blade of grass, every towering oak, every delicate flower owes its life to these hidden threads. The world above is only half the story, the world below completes it. And so roots make life possible in their own way. They do not shine or bloom. They do not sway in the wind or reach for the sun. They go downward into darkness, into silence. Yet from that silence comes strength. From that darkness comes nourishment. From those hidden threads comes the stability of forests, the fertility of fields, the breath of the planet. Roots weave the earth, and through that weave, all life holds together. The morning light rises again, but what happens beneath the soil is still hidden, still unseen. Roots continue their endless weaving, stretching through the dark in silence. Above, the green world thrives because below, the roots persist, making connections, gathering water and holding the ground. If we could peel away the layers of earth and look into that shadowed realm, we would see a world as complex and alive as any forest or meadow. It is a secret universe, built not of leaves and branches, but of threads and tunnels, knots and networks, binding the earth together. Roots do not grow blindly. At their tips, just behind the protective cap of cells, they sense the world around them. They feel gravity, always guiding them downward. They sense moisture, stretching toward it like a thirsty traveler seeking a spring. They sense nutrients, moving toward patches of nitrogen or phosphorus hidden in the soil. Even light can be felt faintly, though roots turn away from it, seeking instead the dark that promises water and minerals. In this way, roots navigate, adjusting their paths with patience. Growing millimeter by millimeter, yet spreading vast webs over years. A single tree can send roots as wide as its crown, and as deep as the height of its trunk, a mirror of itself in the earth below. As roots spread, they branch into finer and finer hairs. These root hairs, so delicate they are invisible without magnification, increase the surface for drinking water 100-fold. Through them, plants draw in the invisible gifts of soil: calcium for bones, magnesium for chlorophyll, iron for blood. When we eat plants, these elements enter our own bodies, becoming part of our strength. Roots are the quiet link between rock and life, the bridge through which stone becomes food and food becomes us. Roots also build partnerships. Around them live countless microbes, forming what scientists call the rhizosphere, the zone of soil influenced by roots. Here, bacteria, fungi, and other organisms gather, drawn by the sugars that roots leak into the ground. These sugars are not waste, but invitations, payments for services. Certain bacteria respond by fixing nitrogen, turning it from a gas in the air into a form plants can use. Other microbes guard roots against disease, forming a protective shield. Fungi, in turn, stretch their hyphae, fine threads thinner than hair, far beyond the reach of roots, drawing water and minerals and sharing them back. In exchange, the plant gives sugars. This exchange, this commerce of generosity, has existed for over 400 million years. Without it, plants may never have colonized land, and the earth might still be barren rock. This hidden web of fungi and roots is vast. In a single teaspoon of forest soil, miles of fungal threads may be curled and coiled. These threads do more than fetch nutrients, they also connect plants to one another. Through them, trees share signals and even resources. A shaded sapling may receive carbon from an older tree. A tree under insect attack may send warning chemicals to neighbors, preparing their defenses. This cooperation, though silent, changes how we see forests. They are not simply collections of individuals, but communities bound together by roots and fungi. The ground beneath is a living network, a conversation in molecules, a woven fabric of mutual care. Roots also shape the very soil they grow in. As they push through earth, they create tiny tunnels that allow air and water to move. As they die and decay, they leave behind channels filled with organic matter, feeding worms and microbes. Over time, roots transform soil, making it richer, more porous, more alive. In grasslands, roots form dense mats that reach meters deep, creating some of the most fertile soils in the world. In forests, falling leaves feed roots below, and roots return the favor by holding nutrients in place, recycling them back to the trees. Soil is not just dirt, it is living memory, shaped by the constant work of roots. Consider the role of roots in landscapes. Along rivers, willows and reeds weave their roots into banks, preventing floods from washing soil away. On hillsides, the roots of shrubs and trees hold slopes steady, stopping landslides. In deserts, even sparse roots help keep sand from shifting too quickly. Without roots, rain would strip hills bare, winds would blow soil into the sky, and fertile land would vanish. Roots are the hidden architects of stability, shaping geography as much as mountains and rivers do. They hold the ground steady beneath our feet, though we rarely thank them for it. Roots are also reservoirs of resilience. Many plants store food in their roots, keeping energy safe for hard times. Carrots, beets, potatoes, all are swollen roots or underground stems filled with sugars and starches. In wild plants, these stores allow survival through winter or drought. When conditions return, the plant regrows from its hidden reserves. After fire sweeps across a prairie, roots remain below, ready to send up new shoots. After grazing animals eat the surface clean, roots fuel the return of green. Even in times of destruction, roots hold the promise of renewal. They are the memory of growth, the keepers of possibility, the guardians of future life. In human culture, roots have always carried meaning. We speak of putting down roots when we find belonging, of uprooting when we leave a place. Roots symbolize origin, heritage, and connection. They remind us that what is unseen sustains what is visible. Just as a tree stands tall because of roots hidden below, so do our lives stand tall because of the hidden support of family, community, and history. The metaphor is not separate from the reality. It springs from the deep truth that roots are the foundation of life. But roots are not always gentle. They can be strong enough to split stone, to crack pavement, to lift sidewalks. Their patience is their power. By pressing slowly with steady persistence, they overcome obstacles that would shatter under sudden force. In this, they teach us that strength need not be low or fast. It can be slow, steady, and enduring, breaking barriers one quiet moment at a time. The root's strength is the strength of patience. If you walk through a forest and press your hand to the ground, you may feel only soil. But beneath your palm, roots spread like veins of a hidden heart. They bind the earth to itself, they link tree to tree, they hold water, they create soil. They work in silence, yet their silence sustains the roar of rivers, the flight of birds, the breath of animals. The forest would collapse without them, and so would we. Every meal, every breath, every step rests on the work of roots, weaving life together below. As the day wanes and shadows stretch, roots continue their work. They are tireless, for they must be. Their world is dark, but their task is light, to give life to what grows above. When we see a field of golden grain or a forest of towering pines, we see only half the truth. The other half is hidden underground, a web of roots knitting the earth. To understand this is to feel wonder, to know that every step we take is upon a living fabric, woven by patient hands beneath the soil. In the end, roots show us that life is not only about reaching upward, but also about reaching downward, into the hidden, into the unseen. They remind us that depth sustains height, that silence sustains song, that the world is held together not only by what we see but by what we do not. They weave the earth, and through their weaving, life holds steady. In their quiet persistence, there is beauty, strength, and peace. Night returns to the earth, and though the green crowns of trees fade into silhouettes, the roots below remain alive and steady. They do not sleep as we do. They slow, they rest, but their quiet weaving never ceases. In the deep dark, they still sip water, still trade with fungi, still hold the soil together. Their patience stretches across centuries, and their silence outlasts storms. To end this story of roots, we must go even deeper, into their mysteries, their gifts, and the quiet truths they whisper through the ground. Roots are storytellers of time. In ancient landscapes, fossilized root systems still lie preserved in stone, evidence of forests that once covered the earth hundreds of millions of years ago. These stone roots tell us how early plants transformed barren rock into fertile land. Their patient work built the soil that allowed animals to roam and ecosystems to bloom. Even now, the roots of old trees carry time within them. Some roots of ancient clonal colonies, like aspen groves, have lived for thousands of years, sending up new trunks as old ones fall. The tree we see may be young, but the root beneath has stretched through centuries. It is not just a structure, but a lineage, a living bridge across ages. Roots also shape rivers and seas. When trees grow along riverbanks, their roots reach into the current, slowing its flow, catching soil, and guiding the river's shape. Mangrove roots cradle coastlines, creating nurseries for fish, shielding shores from storms. In wetlands, roots of reeds and lilies filter water, holding sediments, purifying streams. Without these root systems, rivers would flood more violently, coasts would crumble, waters would cloud. Roots are guardians of the boundary between land and water, weaving earth not only for themselves, but for all life that depends on balance between river and sea. In deserts, roots tell another story. Some plunge deep to reach hidden aquifers, carrying water to the surface. Others spread wide just beneath the skin of sand, drinking quickly from sudden rains before the heat takes them. These strategies allow life in places where survival seems impossible. Even the smallest desert flower, blooming for a single day, owes its chance to roots that endured long, dry years, storing energy for a brief explosion of color. The desert root is a lesson in resilience, in waiting, in making the most of what little comes. Roots also weave communities between species. In rainforests, trees of many kinds are linked below ground by mycorrhizal networks. Nutrients move not only between members of the same species, but across species lines. A tall canopy tree may feed a small understory shrub. A dying giant may give its last sugars to seedlings nearby. This generosity, mediated by roots and fungi, challenges our notion of competition. The forest does not thrive through isolation, but through sharing. The roots beneath remind us that survival is a collective effort, that strength lies in connection. Even our human lives are braided with roots. The food we eat is often root itself: carrots, beets, radishes, or else grown from plants fed by roots below. Medicines come from roots: ginger to soothe, licorice to heal, ginseng to strengthen. Spices that flavor our meals, fibers that make our clothes, dyes that color our fabrics, all begin with roots drinking the earth. Our homes stand because wood once rose from roots. Our words are rye. T10 on paper, born from forests whose roots still hold the land. We are never far from their gift, even when we forget it. Roots also speak to us in silence, in metaphor. To say we are rooted is to say we are stable, grounded at home. To say we are uprooted is to say we are lost, torn away, unsettled. These words flow naturally because roots embody those truths in the real earth. They remind us that to grow tall, we must also grow deep. To reach upward, we must also reach inward. Strength is not only in height, but in depth, not only in what shows, but in what is hidden. The lesson of roots is that unseen foundations give rise to visible wonders. When storms come, trees bend and sway, but they do not fall unless their roots fail. Anchored deep, they withstand wind, lightning, and rain. Their resilience lies not in their leaves, but in their roots. In our own lives, too, storms will come, and what keeps us steady is often unseen. The love of others, the memories we carry, the values planted deep. Roots teach us that stability is not built overnight but grown patiently, cell by cell, year by year, in quiet places where no one looks. When we draw on our hidden depths, we stand like trees unshaken. As dawn approaches once more, roots are still there, steady as ever. They do not pause for day or night, for season or storm. They are faithful, persistent, enduring. Their work is not glamorous, not celebrated, but it is essential. They are the foundation of forests, the builders of soil, the keepers of rivers, the stabilizers of mountains. They are the hidden half of every plant, the half that holds and feeds and weaves. Without them, no tree would stand, no flower would bloom, no seed would grow. Without them, the earth itself would unravel. And so we end with a vision. Beneath every step you take, beneath every field and forest, there lies a hidden tapestry woven of roots. It stretches across the continents, linking life to life, soil to sky, past to future. It is a fabric of strength and patience, of silence and resilience. Roots weave the earth, and in that weaving, they make the world possible. To know this is to feel gratitude for what is unseen, to honor the quiet labor beneath, to trust that what is hidden may also be what sustains us most. In their silence, roots speak. In their darkness, roots shine. In their weaving, the earth holds together, steady and alive. Light falls upon the earth, and with it begins the quiet miracle that sustains all life. Sunlight, ancient and endless, touches the surface of a leaf, and in that touch the air itself is changed. The leaf does not waste the gift. It gathers the light, breaks it into pieces, and weaves those pieces into food and breath. This process, so gentle and constant, is photosynthesis, the quiet alchemy of sunlight. Plants turn what cannot be eaten into what nourishes, what cannot be touched into what feeds. In their silence, they turn the sun into life. Imagine sunlight as a stream of golden coins pouring freely from the sky. These coins fall everywhere onto oceans, deserts, stones, and cities, but only plants have the keys to unlock their value. Within their green cells, in tiny rooms called chloroplasts, lie the tools to catch and spend this treasure. Chlorophyll, the pigment that paints leaves their green, is the net that captures light. When sunlight strikes, chlorophyll absorbs it, holding its energy for an instant before passing it along like a spark. This spark moves through molecules, shifting electrons, splitting water, building sugars. In this hidden dance, the raw brightness of the sun is transformed into the sweetness of life. The process begins with water. Drawn from soil by roots, carried through stems into leaves, water is split by light into hydrogen and oxygen. The oxygen drifts away, rising into the air, becoming the breath of animals, the fire of stoves, the clarity of skies. The hydrogen stays behind, joining with carbon dioxide pulled from the air. Together they form sugars, simple molecules that hold the sun's energy within their bonds. These sugars are the foundation of all food, the starting point of every meal ever eaten. From them grow apples and grains, forests and fields, mussels and mines. Without photosynthesis, there would be no bread, no fruit, no life as we know it. Consider the delicacy of this balance. Plants must open tiny pores called stomata to let carbon dioxide in. But each time they do, water escapes as vapor. Too long open and the plant will dry. Too long closed and the plant will starve. The dance of photosynthesis is not just chemistry, but also careful choice, a balance between thirst and hunger. The plant manages this choice with quiet wisdom, opening and closing, breathing in and out, adjusting to the warmth, the wind, the dryness of the air. Each leaf is like a small negotiator, balancing the need for light, air, and water, finding harmony where survival hangs on thin threads. Yet the true wonder is only in the chemistry, but in the generosity. Plants do not keep their sugars for themselves. They build stems, leaves, and roots from them, but they also store them in seeds and fruits, offering them freely to animals. An apple tree spends its gathered sunlight to make sweet fruit, and in return, a bird or human carries its seeds away. Grass spends its sugars to make grains, and in return, entire civilizations rise fed by harvests. Plants, in making food for themselves, end up feeding the world. Their quiet alchemy is the base of every pyramid of life, the first step in every chain, the gift without which nothing could live. Look at the great forests stretching green across continents. Each tree, each leaf is a workshop of light. Together, they draw in carbon dioxide and release oxygen, changing the very air. They lower heat, summon rain, create climates. On the open ocean, countless tiny plants, phytoplankton, float near the surface, catching sunlight in their cells. Though invisible to the eye, they make more than half of the oxygen we breathe. Each breath you take is partly the work of drifting leaves on the sea, each sigh a continuation of their labor. The air itself is proof of photosynthesis, the whisper of leaves written across the sky. This quiet alchemy also shapes history. When ancient plants first began releasing oxygen billions of years ago, the Earth's atmosphere transformed. Rocks rusted as oxygen bound with iron, oceans changed color, new forms of life emerged. Animals with lungs and muscles could evolve only because plants filled the air with their waste product, oxygen. The Earth we know, with its skies and seasons, its diversity and beauty, is the creation of photosynthesis. To understand this is to see plants not as background, but as authors, as makers of the stage upon which all life performs. But photosynthesis is not uniform. Different plants have refined it in different ways. In cool, moist climates, many plants use what scientists call C3 photosynthesis, a pathway efficient under gentle conditions. In hot, sunny places, grasses like corn and sugarcane use C4 photosynthesis, an adaptation that allows them to capture carbon with less waste, thriving where others would falter. In deserts, some plants use CAM photosynthesis, opening their stomata at night to save water, storing gases until daylight. These variations are like dialects of the same language, different ways of speaking the same truth. That sunlight can become sugar, that energy can become life. The scale of photosynthesis is immense. Every year, plants fix about 100 billion tons of carbon into sugars, cycling energy through the web of life. This flow powers insects, birds, mammals, humans. It powers forests, prairies, oceans. It powers the running of rivers and the migration of herds. To look at a blade of grass shimmering in the sun is to see part of this grand engine, this planetary metabolism. Quiet as it seems, the collective work of photosynthesis is the most powerful transformation on Earth, greater than volcanoes or storms, because it builds rather than destroys. It creates rather than consumes. It gives rather than takes. And yet, for all its power, photosynthesis is fragile. It depends on the right balance of light, water, and air. It depends on the delicate structure of chloroplasts, on molecules catching and passing electrons in endless chains. A single disruption, a drought, a heat wave, a change in air can slow or stop it. Entire harvests can fail if conditions shift. This fragility reminds us that life is not guaranteed but maintained by ongoing work, by countless leaves catching countless photons, by roots pulling countless drops of water. Life persists because plants persist, because they keep weaving sunlight into sugar every hour of every day. As the sun sets, the alchemy slows. Without light, the spark cannot be caught. Yet the sugars made in the day continue to flow, fueling growth, feeding cells, building tomorrow. At night, plants still breathe, still live, but their great work of transforming light into food rests until dawn. And when dawn comes, the miracle begins anew, as if the earth itself awakens with the sun. The quiet alchemy of photosynthesis is not a single act, but a rhythm, a cycle as constant as breathing, as steady as the turning of the earth. To end this first chapter of the story, imagine yourself standing in a meadow at midday. The air is filled with warmth, the grass bends softly in the breeze, the trees rustle. All around you, though invisible, the work of photosynthesis hums. Leaves are catching light, roots are feeding water, sugars are being built, oxygen is drifting into the air. You breathe in, and the air you take is their gift. You look around, and the food that sustains you is their creation. The world is alive because plants have chosen to turn sunlight into life. That is the quiet alchemy, the steady miracle, the gentle wonder of green. The day grows brighter and the quiet alchemy of sunlight continues without pause. What began with a spark of light in a leaf expands into a cascade of transformations that ripple across every corner of the world. To walk through a forest, to cross a meadow, to float on the sea is to be surrounded by this constant work. The miracle is not in its rarity, but in its constancy, in the fact that it happens everywhere, all the time, with a patience that outlasts centuries. To understand this deeper is to see not just the surface of plants, but the flow of energy itself, the long journey of sunlight as it becomes food, body, memory, and song. When light enters a leaf, it does not enter alone. It arrives in packets, tiny particles called photons, each carrying a drop of energy. These photons are caught by chlorophyll, which absorbs certain colors, reds and blues, while reflecting green. That reflection is why leaves appear green to us, but the truth is that green is the color of what is left behind. What is absorbed goes inward, fueling the machinery of life. The captured photons excite electrons, and those electrons begin their journey down a chain of molecules. Each step along the chain transfers energy, a careful handoff like a relay race without end. This flow of electrons is what drives the splitting of water, the making of sugars, the storage of energy. It is the secret river running inside every leaf. The splitting of water is a pivotal act. Water molecules, so simple, are pulled apart by light's energy. Oxygen is released, rising into the air, a gift we breathe. Hydrogen is kept, bound to carriers that hold it until it can be woven into sugars. This act of splitting, repeated countless times across countless leaves, fills the atmosphere with oxygen. It also provides the raw material for the building of carbohydrates. Every apple, every loaf of bread, every grain of rice is born from this moment of water being undone and remade. Light tears apart and then binds together again, turning the simple into the complex, the fleeting into the enduring. Sugars are the outcome of this alchemy, but they are more than sweet. They are storage for light, bonds that hold energy until it is needed. A sugar molecule is a small battery of sunlight, portable, shareable, stable. Plants use these sugars for their own growth, but they also pass them on. Fruits are filled with sugar to entice animals. Seeds hold starch, chains of sugars, to fuel the next generation. Roots store sugars as reserves against winter. And when animals eat plants, these sugars enter new bodies, broken down and reassembled into muscle and thought, into breath and motion. Every step we take, every word we speak, is powered by sugar once made in leaves. We are walking sunlight, living proof of the quiet alchemy of plants. Consider the diversity of ways this process shapes life. In lush rainforests where sunlight and water abound, photosynthesis surges with abundance. Trees grow tall, their leaves catching every photon, their roots sharing sugars with fungi and neighbors. In grasslands, millions of blades rise and fall, each leaf a tiny solar panel, together creating oceans of food for grazing herds. In deserts where water is scarce, cacti and succulents refine the process, storing carbon dioxide at night and using it during the day, avoiding loss. In oceans, phytoplankton drift, catching light in thin surface waters, feeding the smallest zooplankton and through them whales and seabirds. Each ecosystem, from the wettest jungle to the driest sand, is tuned to its own form of photosynthesis, adapted to its challenges, but all built upon the same green alchemy. The rhythm of photosynthesis also shapes climate. As plants draw in carbon dioxide, they regulate the atmosphere. Forests absorb vast amounts of this gas, lowering levels that would otherwise trap more heat. Grasslands and wetlands do the same. Oceans, through plankton, act as immense lungs, balancing the air. Without this steady work, the earth would grow hotter, the climate unstable. Photosynthesis is not only the maker of food, but the keeper of balance, holding the air in a narrow band where life can thrive. To harm forests and oceans is to disrupt this balance, to weaken the alchemy that sustains us all. And yet plants do not hoard their power. They share it freely through webs of life. A tree may send its sugars down into roots, where fungi take some and return minerals. A flower fills its nectar with sugar to lure bees who carry pollen in exchange. A grass stores starch in seeds, which become meals for birds and humans alike. Photosynthesis is not selfish but generous, a process that creates more than it consumes, that builds connections instead of walls. This generosity is why ecosystems are possible, why animals flourish, why humans can gather at tables and share food. Each meal is a circle, a continuation of the leaf's gift. History itself has been shaped by this process. When early humans began farming, they chose plants whose photosynthesis could be guided into grains and fruits. Wheat, rice, maize, potatoes, all are products of photosynthesis turned into civilization. Cities grew because fields of photosynthesizing plants fed thousands. Trade routes opened because spices and sugars, concentrated sunlight, could be carried across oceans. Wars were fought over fertile lands because whoever controlled photosynthesis controlled survival. Even now, our economies and societies are anchored in harvests. We may not think of it when we eat bread or fruit, but every mouthful is sunlight caught in the net of chlorophyll and handed down through time. In science, we marvel at how efficient this process is, and yet how modest. Only a small fraction of the sun's energy is caught by plants, less than 0.1% of what falls on Earth. But because the sun gives so freely, even this small share is enough to sustain all life. It is a reminder that abundance does not need extravagance. With patience and scale, even tiny captures can feed the world. Leaves work quietly, one photon at a time, yet together they turn the planet green and alive. At midday, when the sun is strongest, photosynthesis surges. The leaves hum with activity, stomata open wide, sugars flow. In this moment, the air is thick with oxygen and the energy of the day is woven into living tissue. But by evening, as light fades, the process slows. The sugars made are moved to where they are needed, some to growing shoots, some to storage roots, some to fruits. The work of the day is shared and saved, ready to carry life into night. And with the night comes rest, but also preparation. The next dawn will bring light again, and with it, the alchemy will resume, unbroken, steady as breath. So let us pause in this deepening light and reflect. Photosynthesis is not just a chemical process, it is the foundation of existence. It is how rock and water become body and spirit, how sunlight becomes bread and song. It is the bridge between the distant sun and the intimate act of living. Without it, the earth would be barren. With it, the earth is a garden. To see this is to feel gratitude, to honor the green world that works without praise, without pause, turning light into life with every day that dawns. Evening draws its soft veil across the sky, and the work of photosynthesis slows. The sun slips lower, the light thins, and the leaves fold into shadow. Yet even in this gentle dimming, the quiet alchemy does not truly end. The sugars made during the day are still moving, still flowing through stems and roots, still feeding growth, still storing energy for the night. What begins in the light continues in the dark, a cycle without end, a heartbeat of the green world that never falters. To bring this story to its close is to follow the path of light as it becomes memory, resilience, and future. Every sugar born from sunlight is more than food, it is possibility. A seed swells with starch, storing the work of countless days of photosynthesis. That seed may fall into soil, wait through winter, and then rise in spring, carrying the memory of sunlight across seasons. A fruit holds sweetness not only to tempt a bird, but to ensure that the seed inside will be carried to new soil. Even roots, swollen with sugar, hold life through harshness, ready to regrow when the world softens again. Photosynthesis is not only about feeding the present, but about securing the future, carrying energy forward across time. This gift extends into every meal humans share. Bread is the taste of sunlight transformed by wheat. Rice is the condensation of dawn into grain. Fruit is the sweetness of photons caught months ago, ripened into flavor. Vegetables are the greenness of chlorophyll turned into sustenance. Even meat and milk are second-hand sunlight, passed first through grass and grain before reaching our plates. We are eaters of light, whether we know it or not. Each bite we take is a continuation of photosynthesis, a joining of our lives to the work of leaves. To eat is to remember the sun. The oxygen released by photosynthesis is just as crucial, though we rarely think of it. Each breath we take is filled with air that plants exhaled as waste. We breathe because leaves breathe. We live because oceans are filled with drifting plankton that spill oxygen into the sky. If plants stopped their quiet work for even a short time, the air would thin and life as we know it would fade, but they do not stop. They continue season after season, year after year, filling the atmosphere with the invisible gift of breath. Our lungs are tied to leaves, our hearts to photosynthesis. This cycle also shapes the larger balance of the planet. By drawing carbon dioxide out of the air, plants keep the atmosphere steady. They store carbon in wood, in roots, in soil, keeping it from accumulating too much above. Forests are vast reservoirs of carbon, prairies are vaults of buried roots, oceans are moving tides of carbon. Bond-bound in plankton. Through photosynthesis, the climate is kept in balance, temperatures softened, rains guided. It is a fragile harmony, one that depends on the constant work of green. To lose forests, to harm oceans, is to weaken this balance, to tip the scales that hold life steady. Protecting plants is protecting the alchemy that sustains us all. Photosynthesis is also a story of beauty. The green of leaves, the shimmer of fields, the glow of forests, all are signs of this alchemy at work. The colors of flowers, though shaped by pigments beyond chlorophyll, depend on sugars made through photosynthesis. The sense of fruit, the sweetness of nectar, the energy of seeds all trace back to sunlight woven into matter. Even the warmth of wood in a fire is sunlight stored long ago, released again in flame. Our stories, our songs, our memories are filled with these signs. To walk in a forest at dusk is to walk inside photosynthesis itself, to be surrounded by the soft remains of light caught and kept. And so we see that photosynthesis is not only a process but a relationship. The sun gives its light freely. Plants receive and transform it. Animals, including us, live on what plants make. In return, we breathe out carbon dioxide, which plants need, completing the circle. The cycle is not one of giving and taking, but of sharing, of exchange, of interdependence. We are bound to plants, and they are bound to the sun, and together we form one living whole. To realize this is to feel not separate from nature, but woven into it, part of the same fabric, stitched by light. At night the world rests, but the memory of the day's light remains in every cell. Sugars travel to roots, to seeds, to fruits. They fuel repair, growth, and preparation for the next dawn. The cycle of photosynthesis is steady, endless, as long as the sun rises and leaves turn toward it. When morning comes, the work resumes without hesitation, without pride, without pause. The quiet alchemy begins again, and with it, the world continues. To close, picture yourself holding a single leaf in your hand. It looks simple, green, thin, delicate. Yet inside it, sunlight has been caught, water split, air transformed. Inside it, sugars have been built, oxygen released, life sustained. That leaf holds the secret of existence, the quiet alchemy that makes all else possible. From such leaves come forests, fields, civilizations, and dreams. From such alchemy comes breath, food, beauty, and balance. The truth is soft, profound, and infinite. The sun gives light, and plants turn it into life. And in their silence, they remind us that the greatest miracles are not loud or sudden, but steady, patient, and always with us. A seed rests in the palm, small enough to be overlooked, light enough to be carried on the breath of wind, quiet enough to wait for centuries. Yet within that seed lies a story older than mountains, wider than oceans, deeper than memory. The seed is not only the beginning of a plant, but the beginning of life's continuation, the vessel in which the past becomes the future. It holds the memory of ancestors, the instructions for growth, the patience to wait, and the promise of forests not yet born. Seeds are the endless gift, tiny packages of sunlight and soil, of time and hope, of tomorrow wrapped in today. Imagine walking through a forest in autumn. The air is cool, the leaves fall, and the ground is covered with acorns, pine cones, winged maple seeds spinning like little helicopters. Each one is a child of the tree above, a fragment of its strength, a piece of its story. These seeds are scattered not for the present tree, but for what might come after. The oak drops thousands of acorns, knowing only a few will survive. The maple releases countless whirling seeds, most to be lost, some to take root. This generosity is the way of seeds. They are gifts given freely, in abundance, in faith that enough will endure to carry the lineage forward. Within each seed lies a blueprint of life. Encased in its shell is DNA, a long code written in the letters of molecules. This code tells how to grow roots, how to form leaves, how to reach for light, how to flower, how to seed again. Alongside the code is food, starch, oil, or protein stored to feed the young sprout until it can make its own sugars. And around it all is a coat, tough or thin, designed to protect, to wait, to endure. Some seeds wait only days before sprouting, others wait years. A few have been found to germinate after centuries of sleep, their patience unmatched by any animal. The seed is not hurried. It waits for the right moment, the right soil, the right rain. Its clock is steady, ancient, unbroken. Seeds travel in countless ways, each journey shaped by the plant's imagination. Some are carried by wind, dandelions lifting parachutes of white, maples spinning their wings. Some float on water, coconuts drifting across seas to land on distant shores. Some cling to fur or feathers, hitching rides and passing animals. Some tempt with sweetness, wrapped in fruit so that birds and mammals will eat them and carry them far, dropping them with a gift of fertilizer. Some burst explosively from pods, flinging themselves into the air. However they travel, seeds are wanderers, explorers, voyagers of possibility. They leave the safety of the parent and venture into the unknown, carrying with them the hope of new life. The variety of seeds is astonishing. A giant coconut can weigh more than a human head, its thick shell protecting the food and embryo inside. A tiny orchid seed is dust-like, containing almost no food, relying on fungi to nourish it when it lands. Grains like wheat, rice, and corn are seeds that have fed civilizations, each kernel a storehouse of energy. Nuts like almonds and walnuts are seeds, rich with oil, designed to sustain the embryo but shared by humans as sustenance. Beans, peas, lentils, all seeds, all filled with stored sunlight turned into nourishment. The diversity of seeds is the diversity of life itself, each adapted to survive in its place, each carrying the same purpose, to continue the story. Seeds are also timekeepers. Some sprout quickly, racing to grow in short seasons. Others remain dormant until fire clears the land, or until water washes away their coat, or until cold and darkness have passed. This dormancy is not failure but wisdom. By waiting, seeds avoid sprouting in conditions that would kill them. They remember in their own way the rhythms of their environment, the cycles of rain and fire, of flood and frost. In this waiting, seeds embody patience, resilience, and foresight. They do not rush, but when the moment comes, they unfurl with unstoppable energy, sending roots down and shoots up, joining the great green chorus of life once more. Consider a field after harvest. The stalks are cut, the plants withered, yet within the soil lie countless seeds, resting, waiting. Come spring, the field will be green again, not because of what remains above, but because of what lies hidden below. Seeds are the memory of the field, the way it remembers itself, the way it returns each year. Without seeds, the cycle would end. With them, the cycle continues year after year, century after century. The endurance of ecosystems depends on seeds, on their ability to bridge time, to leap from one season into the next. In human life, seeds are central. Our agriculture is nothing more than the art of nurturing seeds, guiding them into growth, harvesting their abundance, saving them for planting again. Our diets are built on seeds, wheat ground into bread, rice boiled into meals, corn turned into countless forms of nourishment. Our economies are built on seeds traded and cultivated. Our cultures are marked by seeds planted in gardens, by seeds gifted as symbols of fertility and hope, by seeds carried across oceans by migrating peoples. Even our metaphors rely on seeds. We speak of planting ideas, sowing kindness, reaping what we sow. Seeds are not only physical objects, but symbols of beginning, of potential, of continuity. The endless gift of seeds is not only their abundance, but their generosity. They are given freely, scattered widely, produced in numbers far beyond what is needed. Each seed is a chance, and plants do not withhold those chances. They spend them lavishly, filling air, soil, and water with possibilities. Most will never grow, but enough will. This is the mathematics of resilience, the generosity of life. Seeds remind us that survival is not guaranteed, but offered, not certain, but abundant. They are the promise that even when one season ends, another will come, and life will find a way to begin again. As evening falls on the forest, the seeds lie quietly on the ground, hidden in soil, tucked in cones, drifting in air. They wait as they always have, as they always will. Their patience is endless, their promise unbroken. Within them lies the future of forests, the continuation of fields, the nourishment of people, the balance of the world. To hold a seed is to hold the earth's memory and its hope. It is to hold the endless gift of life itself, small and silent, waiting for the right moment to awaken. The morning sun returns, and with it the seeds stir, though most remain still, hidden in their coats, waiting. The patience of seeds is not weakness but strength, for their gift is endurance across time. Some will wait only days before sprouting, others weeks, and some even centuries. Archaeologists once discovered a seed of a date palm buried in ancient ruins 2,000 years ago, and when it was placed in soil, it grew again, stretching toward light as if no time had passed. Seeds carry this astonishing capacity, bridging ages, holding life safe within a shell until the world is ready to receive it. The shell of a seed is more than protection, it is design. Some are thin and fragile, meant to sprout quickly after falling. Others are thick and hard, requiring fire, frost, or the grinding of an animal's teeth to break open. This toughness ensures the seed does not waste itself in poor conditions. In pine forests, cones may remain closed for years, waiting for fire to heat them before opening, releasing seeds into cleared soil where they have the best chance to grow. In deserts, seeds may wait until rain soaks the ground, sensing moisture before breaking their dormancy. Each seed carries not only the instructions for life, but also the wisdom of when to begin it. Inside, the seed holds an embryo, a tiny plant curled upon itself, already shaped with the beginnings of root and shoot. Surrounding it are stores of food, starch in grains, oil in nuts, protein in legumes. These reserves are the seed's inheritance, the last gift of the parent plant, enough to fuel the first days of growth until leaves can catch the sun. When we eat bread, rice, beans, or nuts, we are sharing in this inheritance, consuming the food meant for new life. We live on the generosity of seeds, taking their stored energy into our own bodies, making their patience part of our strength. Seeds are travelers, and their journeys shape the earth. Wind carries them far, lifting them high and scattering them wide. A single dandelion head can release hundreds of seeds, each with a feathery parachute, drifting until it finds soil. Water carries others, coconuts crossing oceans, lotus seeds floating across lakes. Animals carry seeds in fur, feathers, and bellies. Some seeds are barbed, clinging tightly to coats, traveling miles before being brushed off. Others are wrapped in fruit, eaten gladly, then dropped elsewhere, fertilized by the very body that ate them. In this way, seeds spread the green world across continents, filling empty spaces, reclaiming bare ground, renewing life where it has been lost. The abundance of seeds ensures resilience. A tree may produce thousands of acorns in a single season, though only a handful will grow. A sunflower may drop hundreds of seeds, most eaten, some sprouting. This generosity is not waste but strategy. By scattering widely, plants ensure that at least a few will find safe places. It is a lesson in abundance. Survival does not come from holding tightly but from giving freely. The earth is filled with seeds because life knows that enough will always find a way. The relationship between humans and seeds is ancient. For thousands of years, people have gathered, planted, and saved seeds. Early farmers learned to choose seeds from plants with the best yield, shaping crops over generations. Wheat, rice, maize, barley, millet all began as wild grasses, their seeds small and scattered. Through patient care, humans guided them into forms that could feed villages, then cities, then nations. Saving seeds became not only survival but tradition. Families passed down seed varieties, carrying the memory of their ancestors' fields. Seeds became heritage, culture, story. They are as much a part of human history as art, language, or song. Seeds also embody resilience in times of hardship. In frozen vaults in the Arctic, scientists have built seed banks, storing countless varieties against disaster. Within these vaults lie the futures of crops, the insurance of biodiversity. If fields fail, if climates change, if diseases strike, seeds can be drawn from these collections to restore what is lost. It is humanity's recognition of the endless gift that within seeds lie not just plants but survival itself. We guard them because they guard us. The metaphors of seeds reach deeply into human thought. We speak of planting ideas, sowing kindness, reaping what we sow. Seeds represent beginnings, potential, patience. A seed does not become a tree in a day, yet within it lies the certainty that given time it can. Seeds remind us that greatness begins small, that patience is part of growth, that what is hidden may one day become immense. To plant a seed is to act in faith, to trust the unseen, to believe in a future we may not live to see. In this way, seeds are more than biology, they are philosophy, teaching us how to live. Consider the ecosystems built upon seeds. Birds depend on them for food through winter when insects are scarce. Rodents gather and store them, filling burrows with caches that sometimes sprout into forests. Insects feast on them, spreading them unintentionally. Seeds are the currency of survival for countless species, the foundation of food webs. Their abundance supports life far beyond the plants that made them. Without seeds, ecosystems would falter and diversity would collapse. With them, abundance continues, layer upon layer, season upon season. At dusk, the seeds rest again. Some are buried in soil, some lie on forest floors, some float in rivers, some cling to coats. All are waiting. Their patience is their power, their silence their strength. They do not rush, but when the moment is right, they awaken with unstoppable force. A root pierces soil, a shoot rises, a leaf unfurls. And the cycle begins anew. Seeds are not merely beginnings. They are continuations, bridges, gifts without end. To know them is to know that life is always ready to return, always waiting to rise again. Night has returned, but the seeds do not fear the dark. They were made for such times, for waiting, for holding their promise through silence and shadow. In the soil, in the cracks of stone, in the hollows of forest floors, seeds lie hidden, patient as stars. They wait for the warmth of spring, for the soft drumming of rain, for the fire that clears the land, for the bird that carries them to new ground. In their stillness, they carry all the restless energy of the world, condensed into the size of a fingertip. The seed is not emptiness but fullness, not the end but the beginning disguised as pause. When the right moment comes, the seed awakens. Its coat softens, water seeps inside, and the embryo swells with life. The root emerges first, always downward, anchoring, drinking, claiming its place in the earth. Then the shoot rises, bending upward, seeking light. It is a slow unfurling, but once begun, it cannot be stopped. The seed transforms into a plant, reaching for the sun, weaving itself into the green web of the world. What once seemed inert becomes movement. What once seemed silent becomes song. The seed has kept its promise. But seeds do more than grow into single plants. They weave generations. Each seed carries not only its own life, but the memory of those before it. The genes within are shaped by countless ancestors, by the trials they survived, by the climates they endured. A seed is history wrapped in a shell, carrying adaptations honed over millennia. When it sprouts, it does not begin from nothing, but from everything that came before. In this way, seeds are both memory and future, heritage and hope, binding past to possibility. The endless gift of seeds is also their abundance. They are scattered far beyond what is needed, cast into soil and water, into fur and feather, into wind and tide. Most will never grow, but enough will. This generosity ensures survival, but it also enriches the world. Seeds feed birds and mammals, they nourish insects and fish, they sustain ecosystems even when they do not sprout. Their purpose is not wasted, whether they grow into trees or become food. Each seed in its way serves life. Each is part of the circle, part of the offering of the earth to itself. In human hands, seeds become symbols of trust. To plant a seed is to invest in a future unseen. Farmers sow with faith that the earth will provide rain, that the sun will rise, that the seasons will turn. Gardeners plant with hope that beauty will bloom. Families save seeds from one harvest to the next, carrying not only food but tradition, the memory of flavors and fields. Entire cultures have been shaped by seeds carried across mountains and oceans. Rice in Asia, maize in the Americas, wheat in the Middle East, sorghum in Africa. Seeds are not only nourishment but identity, roots of civilizations, markers of belonging. Seeds also embody resilience in times of change. Some survive fire, sprouting only after flames clear the way. Others survive drought, waiting years for rain. Some cross oceans, enduring salt and storm to find new shores. Their patience allows them to persist where other forms of life might perish. In their silence lies their strength, the ability to endure what is harsh, to wait through what is empty, to rise again when the time is right. Seeds are the quiet answer to uncertainty, the promise that even when life seems lost, it waits ready to return. The diversity of seeds is a wonder. From the massive coco de mer, the largest seed in the world, to the dust-like orchid seeds that drift unseen, the range is astonishing. Each form is a strategy, each design a story of survival. Some are armored, some fragile. Some are bitter to deter predators, others sweet to invite them. Some sprout quickly, others lie dormant for decades. This diversity is why life is resilient, why ecosystems can recover after fire, flood, or storm. The endless gift is not only that seeds exist, but that they exist in such variety, filling every niche, every possibility, every gap in the fabric of life. In this way, seeds shape the future of the planet. Forests begin with seeds scattered on soil. Prairies return with seeds that lie buried for years, waiting for rain. Even barren land can be reclaimed if seeds are sown, their roots anchoring soil, their leaves catching light, their bodies weaving ecosystems anew. Seeds are nature's way of ensuring continuity, of writing tomorrow into today. They are promises made by trees to the future, by grasses to the wind, by flowers to the bees. Without seeds, the story of life would end in silence. With them, the story is endless, renewed in every season. As the night deepens, the seeds remain, countless, unseen, enduring. They lie in fields and forests, in deserts and wetlands, in the pockets of birds and the hands of children. They wait, carrying the memory of light, the promise of growth, the certainty of renewal. The world may change, storms may rage, winters may stretch long, but the seeds endure. They are the bridge across time, the vessels of continuity, the endless gift of life itself. To close, picture holding a single seed once more. Small, silent, unremarkable. Yet within it lies the blueprint of a forest, the memory of ancestors, the possibility of shade and fruit, the future of food and breath. Within it lies the power to transform barren ground into garden, silence into song, waiting into growth. The seed is the earth's way of saying life will continue. It is the endless gift, given freely, scattered widely, patient and enduring. And to know this is to feel comfort, to rest in the knowledge that as long as seeds exist, life itself will not end.